we're doing area of a parallelogram. So a parallelogram is a pushed over rectangle. So if you can imagine that we start off with a rectangle and then we tilt it to one side, you will form a parallelogram. Might tilt that way, but you will form a parallelogram. So what happens is this bit here, they're two lines that we've just kept stable from the rectangle, and these sides here we've just tilted. Okay? So it's a bit like a rectangle pushed over. Now you know that the area of a rectangle formula is A equals length times breadth, L times B. So it's a similar thing with the parallelogram. Because it's a pushed over rectangle, we're just multiplying something similar to the length and the breadth. But we call it the base, like we do with the triangle, and the height, the perpendicular height, like we do with the triangle. Okay, so we're doing A equals B times H, where B is your base and H is your perpendicular height. So it has to be at right angles to the base. I've extended it here, the base, so you can see the right angle, but sometimes it's drawn inside the shape. Okay, so on these questions here we're finding the area. Firstly, you need to look at the shape and identify the shape, because so far we've learned about rectangles and triangles and now parallelograms. So we don't want to get these formulas mixed up. So you look at it and go, well, I know that shape's a parallelogram because those arrows indicate parallel sides. So those arrows there, one single arrow pointing in the same direction, means we have one pair of parallel sides. These double arrows pointing in the same direction indicate that those two lines are parallel. So if we've got two pairs of parallel sides, we have a parallelogram. Okay, so we know it's a parallelogram, so we know that the formula is A equals B times H. So now we just have to go to the diagram and try and work out what they are. So this is our base, so that's going to be 8 times, and we're looking for the right angle coming off the base. Well, here it is, and that is our perpendicular height, 6. So you just multiply those two numbers together on your calculator, and you'll get 48 centimetres for our units, and it's an area, so we've got centimetres squared. Let's have a look at the next one. Again, it's a parallelogram because we have one pair of parallel sides here and another pair of parallel sides here. So when you've got two pairs of parallel sides, you've got a parallelogram. So we're going to use our area of a parallelogram formula, which is A equals B times H. Now we look at our diagram. Our base is 5.4 times our perpendicular height has to come off our base at right angles. There's your right angle, so this is your perpendicular height, 3. So then we multiply those on our calculator and type in 5.4 times 3, and we end up with 16.2. And then we write metres squared because it's area, and that's your answer. Now we're getting into the trickier ones here because they're trying to confuse you. They've given you lots of numbers. We're only going to be using 2 of those numbers. Make sure they're the correct ones. So firstly, it is a parallelogram because we have one pair of parallel sides here and another pair of parallel sides here. So we write down the area of a parallelogram formula. And then we have to try and identify our base and our perpendicular height. So let's look for that right angle. Here it is. So the base and the perpendicular height have to be near that right angle. So we're going to be using this for our base, and then this comes off our base at right angles, so that will be our perpendicular height. So that number over there is not going to be used at all. So it'll be 8 times 9, and you'll get 72 off your calculator. Millimetres is our units, and it's squared because we're doing area, and that's our answer. So you'll notice on everything that we're doing, we have to write the formula down first, then put our numbers in, then get our answer. So when you're doing this for your homework, I want to see 3 lines of working, just like that. Okay, now we're getting into the harder questions here. So when you look at this one here, sorry, I forgot to put your marks on for your parallel lines, so I'll just do that now. All right, so when you look at this parallelogram, 1 pair of parallel sides, 2 pairs of parallel sides, we know we're going to be using the formula A equals B times H. However, we can't go putting numbers into there just yet, because if you have a look at the units, this one is 3 metres and this one is 560 centimetres. You cannot be dealing with different units, they have to be the same. So what we might do is leave this one here in centimetres. I'm going to change this one here into centimetres so that they're both in centimetres. Okay, so we're going to a smaller unit. So we multiply. The prefix is centi. Centi is 100. So we're going to do 3 times 100, and that is 300. So we're going to use that number and that number in our formula. They're both in centimetres now. So our base will be this, which is 300 centimetres, times our perpendicular height coming off your base at right angles is 560 centimetres. And we're just going to multiply those 2 numbers together on your calculator. So just type in 300. Sorry, just watch what I'm doing here. All right, so we're going to type in 300 times 560 equals 168,000. And then we put our units on. Now this time, remember, we dealt with centimetres, so it's centimetres squared. You could have also done that question by making them both metres. You could have kept the 3 metres and changed your centimetres into metres and given your answer in a different number with metres squared on the end. Okay, so just make sure that they're both in the same units. Over here, we're going to do the same thing here. So we've got a parallelogram. We have 1 pair of parallel sides here, another pair of parallel sides here. So we've got a parallelogram, 2 pairs of parallel sides, but our units are different. So something has to change. I might do this one changing it the other way around so you can see how it works. So I'm going to keep this one in metres and I'm going to convert this into metres. So I'm going to a bigger unit. So I divide. C for centi is 100. So we're dividing by 100. So if you do on your calculator 350 divided by 100, you will get 3.5 metres. So we're going to use those 2 numbers in metres this time. So we'll put our formula down, B times H, A equals B times H. Now, our base, we're going to say is 2 metres, times, look for your right angle, here's your right angle, and that's our perpendicular height. Now we change that to 3.5, so we're going to write 3.5 there. Now if you multiply those on your calculator, you'll get 7. Then our units that we used were metres, and it's squared for area. So in the homework, you're going to be practicing these questions. All of them you're going to do 3 lines of working, and some of the harder ones you will have to do a conversion of units before you start. So there's not much to do in the homework, so I want them all done properly, and good luck with them.